Yeah, I guess we can start now. Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to our online session on SOP writing for higher studies abroad. I'm Chetan Chinchokar, current Joint Secretary of Students Academy Board, and I'm very thrilled to be your host for this exciting session. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from an outstanding guest speaker, Angna Chaudhary. She is first year PhD student from chemical engineering department at Penn State University with an extensive experience in that field. She'll be sharing her valuable insights into US higher education system and its advantages for international students. But there is more. Like we don't want this to be a one-way conversation. We want to hear from you as well. So this session is designed to be interactive with plenty of opportunities for to like ask questions and to like engage in this discussion. So let's get ready to learn, connect, and have some fun. So please give a warm welcome to Angna Chaudhary as she takes us through this exciting session.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Chetan, for the wonderful introduction. I'll just share my presentation. Okay. So, so the entire process of applying for the university abroad is it's a long process, and you should actually be patient in applying for this process and going through this. So, technically, well, I'm Angana Chaudhary and I'm a PhD candidate in the Chemical Engineering Department in Penn State University. And I'll be giving you a talk on writing your way to the success. Well, it will include the SOP writing and also about the CV writing and some here and there small tips about how to go around the entire process, when to begin the applications and everything. So, so first of all, the most important part is how do you actually shortlist universities? So I have listed down some of the points over here. So the you need to find out which universities are the A universities and the B universities for the conducting the researches in your field of interest. And I think the ranking is important for the university, but not as much because ultimately it's the research on which you're going to focus. So, ranking comes a second, but then after that, you have to see the faculty expertise and like the departments in which you are interested in. For example, if I am in chemical engineering, and since I have a very interdisciplinary background, and most people have nowadays. So I could also navigate into the areas of like civil and environmental engineering, biotechnology and bioengineering, and the basic sciences departments as well. It's not restricted only to the engineering department. It can move towards the basic sciences departments like the chemistry. So after that comes the program requirements. So for the program requirements, since it's a PhD abroad, you need to qualify some of the exams. For example, the GRE, TOEFL, and the IELTS. So for the last 2 to 3 years during the COVID time, the GRE was actually waived for many universities. You have to actually go through every university's website, application website, and check in for every program to see if they are asking for GRE or not. But as far as my uh, when I talked to the administration and the others, they said that having a GRE or not having a GRE for the past 3 years, when it's like an optional, it doesn't matter. So what was important for them was your entire profile or the research profile. But you have to give the TOEFL or the IELTS as required by the university. That also depends upon the various programs in the different universities. So you can either give a TOEFL exam or an IELTS exam. So in the US, TOEFL is more is better actually as compared to IELTS, but you can obviously go for the IELTS if your department allows it. So after the funding, so after this comes the funding opportunity. So you need to also look into the fact that here in US, most of the PhDs are fully funded by the universities. So either you can be funded by the university or by India itself. I mean, there are lots of different programs like the SOP fellowship and everything. The SOP fellowship actually, you can just Google it and you'll find that some of the universities in Canada and some of the universities in USA actually offers the SOP fellowship. Uh, so that is one of the opportunities for the funding, and you can also like there are lots of other materials over the internet where you can see there are different funding opportunities for the different countries. So but the other way around is in USA, most of the PhD programs are funded by the university itself. Now that can be founded either if you are doing a research assistant or a teaching assistant. So when you are applying, you have to keep in mind that uh, for for you'll obviously get admitted into more than one university. So which universities are providing you teaching assistants and which universities are providing you the research assistants. So and also keep in mind that your tuition fees should be waived as well. Uh, for for doing a PhD abroad, most of the universities, the tuition fees is also waived. And the most important thing is the networking here. So for networking, so what I did was I started off by making an exhaustive list of the professors I actually wanted to work with. Be it Canada, don't restrict yourself to first for from the beginning, don't restrict yourself for one country. I listed down for the Canada, UK, US, and Australia even as well, and like make an Excel sheet or a Word file and list down every professor's name, their research areas, the university, their rankings, and the if there is an opening or not. Even if there is not an opening, just list it down over there. So and also so from among them, so if you get a hold of the students who are working under them, so you can contact them as well to ask about what kind of research is going, if there is an opportunity or an opening in there in the lab and everything. So this is very important because according to that list you can start mailing the professors. So I would say in USA, the system of the PhD applications is a bit different from that of the United Kingdom. So you can like the entire Europe works on the project vacancies. So they are going to like show up a vacancy or an open position only when like they have a project with them. So it's completely based on the project basis. But here in US, there is a bunch of students who are taken in by every department of the universities, and then they are like they go through lab rotations or other kinds of methods to by which they can select their professors and their advisors. So that's like for most of the cases, but there are some exceptions where you can directly get in through the professor. You just have to apply it formally. So what I did was I started mailing off the professors, and I used to get a lot of feedbacks from them. Why this is important is even if the US universities, like most of the US universities, takes in through the formal application and goes through the formal process, but many professors will be there who will be actually giving you feedbacks on your statement of purpose, your CV, and your cover letter. So depending on them, you can actually improve every time. So that is very important, I think, for like making your this SOP and CV everything a better presentation. So so now comes the CV writing and personal website. So CV writing is quite important. So every CV, so you know that now the CV for your placements is quite different from the CV you'll be making for your academic life. So here in the for your research abroad, you have to tailor your CV according to the program you might want to apply. So for example, if you are trying to apply in the chemical engineering, so you must have done exhaustive work in different areas. Uh, the entire purpose of CV and SOP is not exactly writing what you have done, but you have to tailor whatever work or workshops, anything you have done in a way so that it fits into the program in which you're applying for. So, like for example, people working in the chemical engineering department can also apply in the material science department. So you have to tailor your CV in a way where, I mean, every program in which you're applying will have some changes. And here for chemical engineering, probably you will be focusing more on the areas where which includes the chemical engineering aspect. But when we are applying to the material science and engineering, your CV and your SOP will be tailored in a way where your material science and applications of them have been used by you. So it's important for your CV to be exactly, tailored or specifically towards the program in which you're applying. And also and it's important to highlight your achievements in the CV. So like from like the scholarships you have gotten or any award you have got, so that's important because that will set you apart from the every other. I mean, there are thousands of people applying for that program. So it's important that you highlight the achievements which you are getting. And obviously, since it's a research and academic one, you have to emphasize your research experience. So so what I did was like after consulting a lot of people, it's important that if you are doing a teaching assistance anywhere, so you can and you should add over there. So that would mean that you have some experience in the teaching area as well. So if some programs are giving you teaching assistance, that would be a plus point over there. And your CV, for most of the application purposes, it's like it's better to keep in the maximum of 2 pages, and it should be as concise, clear, and professional as possible. I mean, it has to look good. There are different formats. You can use the LaTeX, or I mean, I use LaTeX for writing my CV, and it has lots of formats available for you. So the CV has to be quite attractive. I mean, even if a person doesn't go through, at least in the first glance, the CV should look impressive enough. But it also doesn't mean that you use different colors and other things. It has to be professional, but at the same time, it has to catch the attention of the administration or the program which you're applying to. Most importantly, proofread from the seniors. So I had many seniors in my lab who had already gone abroad for the exchange programs, and there were other people whom I had contacted through LinkedIn as well. So they helped me in proofreading my CV, send it to them, get their feedbacks, be it positive or negative. You'll and just inculcate them in your CV, and it goes the same for your SOP as well. And so I mean, as your work and your project increases or the days goes by, obviously you'll be having new experiences. Keep improving your CV in every possible way you can. So there are certain formats in which you can put in your publications, your research experiences, and everything. Also, it's important that in CV you actually put in your position of responsibilities, which you have given. I mean, they also want to see that apart from your academic life, what kind of extracurricular, co-curricular, what kind of responsibilities and management skills you have. So it's quite important to get into them as well. Okay, and personal website, I have not mentioned about that in the slide, but personal website is an additional thing. I mean, many people do not have a personal website when they're applying for, but I did keep one. So then the personal website again, there is a format in which it has to be different from that of the CV. Personal website, it has like you make it, and then you have your like the different tabs to navigate through it. You have your introduction, your research experiences, your teaching experiences, and your publications over there. So that gives an easy access for the person who is reading your CV. If there's a link on top of the CV, then they can just click in and then navigate through it. I mean, obviously looking through a website is, I mean, might be attractive for the person or the administrator who is going through your CV. So you can add that. I mean, that is something nowadays people are doing, and one should actually do it. So after this comes the important part of the SOP writing. So first, we need to start with a strong introduction. So, I mean, you have to start with a very strong introduction where you can say that why you are applying for this program which you are applying for. I mean, and what has motivated you? I mean, some incident, some event, something which happened in your childhood, something of that sort. something which can fetch the attention of the reader who is going through the statement of purpose. I mean, they are reading through thousands of statement of purposes, so your statement of purpose has to be apart or different from the most of the people, so that they can listen to it, read through it and understand, and that what, yes, that you are interested in this program and you are actually eligible for it. So it's important that you write what has inspired you in this field. I mean, if you are from an electrical engineering background, probably some kind of big blackouts which you have seen in your life, you can mention that. If you are from the chemical engineering or environmental engineering field, you could say that this, or from the biological field, you can say that this pandemic has made you interested in go in delving into this research area. Or you can also say like there are different goals set by the United Nations, the sustainable goals. So one of those goals, and you want to target them because this is affecting the environment, the earth, and that is something you are passionate about working through. So in the SOP also, it has to be an exhaustive. I mean, it does not have to be exhaustive, but your academic achievements has to be mentioned over there. Any kind of award you get, and you need to write, like where that award you have got and how does it affect your application over here. So here it's also what's important is you have to show the extracurriculars and the co-curriculars in a, obviously in CV you're mentioning it, but it's, in a from a CV format, but when you're going through the SOP, it's like your purpose of entire purpose of application for this program. So you have to write in a way where you can showcase your management skills for your extracurriculars and the co-curricular activities. You have to show your passion and motivation, and fine, and also every kind of skills and technical sets you have learned in your lab work or in your coursework. So most people have that I mean there are lots of people who have publications when they are applying for the PhD programs. So but there are lots of people who do not have publications, but they tailored their SOP in a way where they can you know uh, elaborate on their research experiences itself in a way that they don't, I mean, it's not necessary to have publications. It just adds on to the fact that okay, you have done the work and it is publishable and it's available to the academic society, and that you know how to, I mean, you know how to write papers. I mean, one of the important parts in your PhD program is being able to write papers. But there are lots of people who do not have publications when they are applying for the PhD, and for people who have just come out from their undergrad and applying directly for their PhD might not have a paper. But that does not matter because you have to tailor your research experience, your skills and abilities that you have learned in your or lab in a way that you have to showcase it in a way that you know you get a lot of you have a lot of knowledge and you can actually work through them. Also, one thing which I would say that departments or the programs, they would appreciate if in your CV, if you can in your SOP, if you can showcase that you're open for like research in the different fields. It's like you probably have worked only in the molecular biology field, but I mean, if time comes, and if obviously in PhD you'll be learning different kinds of skills and abilities, and you'll have different objectives, so you can delve into other areas as well which you might not have knowledge beforehand. So if your SOP actually shows that you have worked in interdisciplinary areas, it's good for you. And so this SOP writing thing is not a one-time thing. So you have to, I remember I got admitted here in 2022. So I started off, I think, around like after 2020 end, like December, I started off with my SOP writing. You actually even before that, like you start writing it, and then first you make a first draft, you correct it thousands of times, then you send over to every seniors, your mentors and other lab members for them to proofread. And then and so it's important to get proofread always, because every person's perspective you could get, and that could improve you for making your SOP. So you can contact different people in the LinkedIn as well. I'll suggest use LinkedIn very efficiently. I mean, you can make lots of contacts and they can actually suggest you a lot of different things. You can send over the people in LinkedIn on, and as I told, when you were mailing professors, even they give the suggestions and everything. I have personally received a lots of feedbacks from the professors, which has helped me in enhancing my CV and my SOP. So, uh, so your academic accomplishments, management skills, and your research experiences are all listed. And also, it is important to connect every research experiences that you are listing down. And I mean, how you're connecting one of the projects. I mean, you probably have worked in one of two independent projects, but you have to find a link in which you can showcase in your statement of purpose that it has motivated you to uh, do the other project. I mean, something has to be there which is linking both of them. It shouldn't be like two different and things. So, and it's important that the end of the paragraph, the end of this SRS statement of purpose, it should be mentioning. I mean, it's important when you are applying for the program, you should have in mind at least two professors whom you might want to work under. So you mentioned why you were working in the lab, in their lab, and why specifically this institute. I mean, why, what, what, what will this institute or the program which you're applying for actually, uh, you know, uh, provide you, and at the same time what will you be offering to the lab or the institute if you are taken in. So it's important, you have to write it in a way that it's a two-way thing, where you can understand that where they can understand that you are also gaining something, and at the same time you will be also providing something to them. So there's some of the gist. So it's important that to keep in mind some of the do's and don'ts of the SOP writing. So for the do's, most of the part I have already told, that it should be clear, concise, and it should fetch the reader's attention. You can use your specific examples like achievements, experiences, and skills, and it needs to be honest and authentic. If you are I mean, if you are talking about your personal life, anything which, I mean, in your statement of purpose, you can write a little bit about your managerial skills and your something which you have done in your personal life, but it has to be true and authentic. So, and most importantly, the don'ts are, don't use cliches and generic statements. I mean, you can Google up and find a number of generic statements, and you might find it fascinating to use them, but it's not necessary. I mean, you might find a lot of SOPs where they have used very complicated sentences and difficult words, but it's what's important is framing your sentence in a good way. You can use good words, or you cannot use, you might not use a good word, but that's not the entire, like, most important thing about your statement of purpose. And also, don't exaggerate or falsify your statements. Try not to repeat information from the CV. I mean, obviously for your CV and resume will have some information which you are mentioning in your statement of purpose, but not, I mean, statement of purpose is more exhaustive and more detailed, which you cannot mention in your CV. Keep that in mind. For example, you might have worked on a project which you might have helped your seniors working on something which is not published, and I mean, not very significant to put it on your CV, but that you can mention in your statement of purpose, that you have been acknowledged in this paper here somewhere, and you have helped them in drafting the paper. You have learned from this, you have learned a lot, you have worked with them in this experiments and everything. You can mention all of those in your statement of purpose. Now okay, and don't use fancy fonts, or as I said, it has to be attractive, but at the same time, you have to stick to the standard format as well. And statement of purpose also, it has to be a maximum of 2 pages. I mean, actually, if so, the statement of purpose for every program or the university you'll be applying to, they'll have their own guidelines. So most universities have a thing of 2 pages, but there are some universities which can say write a 1 page SOP. So you need to check the instructions when you are applying. So it's better to keep two kinds of SOPs, one for 1 page, another a 2 page one. So okay, so it's important that you set your SOP apart. So in your SOP also, like when you're emphasizing your academic achievements, I've already mentioned them, but it's good that if you mention your GPA and your academic honors and scholarships. I mean, many, and even in conferences you might get the best speaker award and everything, so you can mention all of them. It's important to demonstrate the potential that you will be. So the entire point of like being a PhD student is that you will be contributing something to the society and your field of the study, so you should be mentioning how you are going to shape your future. And that is, and not only personal, I mean, it will not, it should not be like only it's important to yourself, but it has to be written in a way where it has an impact over the society or the environment or the health industry or something. So that is why, like, you can go through the 18 different sustainable goals set by the United Nations, and probably you can tailor your future perspectives in that way. So that is actually a very efficient. I mean, my current advisor has actually uh, told me that you can list down those 18 goals. You can just target those 18 goals and end your SOP. Not end your SOP, right? Write your SOP in that way. So, and also explain the research interest, obviously. Yes. So this is important. Like, you might have done a ton of research works, but you have to explain in the statement of purpose how your research interest align with the current research trends. I mean, there are lots of work going on around, and every day in every like research in your research area, thousands of people are actually getting published, and how your is aligned with the current research trends. For example, you might be designing a prototype for a medicine, a COVID medicine. So you have to link it in a way that how this is different from the one which is currently in the market. How is it novel? So you have to mention those in a slightly in a short way, not exactly in details, but yes, you have to mention how your research is aligned with the current research trends. Now, and also, as I've mentioned already, explain why you are a good fit for the program. It's important for the program or the department of the university to know that why you are fit for this and what will you be offering to the program, which is good for you. I mean, good. Why you will be a good fit for the program. And finally, you, as I already said, that it should mention any faculty members and the research interest you align with yours. So for most of the US universities, after you get selected, I mean, pass through the first screening of your application process, you go to, there are in certain interviews with the professors where they can select, they talk to you to understand your research interest and everything. So during those time, try talking to the lab members which they have scheduled in a mail. Then shoot a mail to them, talk to them, and ask them what kind of work goes on in the lab, what is the culture of the lab and everything. So yeah, I mean, that's and the more you talk to people, I mean, there are lots of people even in IIT Guwahati who have gone for student exchange programs, and who there is a very strong alumni as well who are settled abroad, so you can go through them. Uh, so uh, so that's like how you can set your SOP apart from everyone. Uh, okay, so thank you. So if you have any questions, you can send it in the chat box. I think there are some.
Yeah, we have some questions. I will read it for you.
Yeah.
Um, for getting feedback from professors, how should we ask them to review our SOP when we don't know them beforehand?
No, you cannot directly ask to review your SOP, but it's more like you design your cover letter, your SOP, and your CV, and send out a mail to them asking that if you have any opportunity, I would like to join your lab. So when you're applying, it's not like everyone is giving you a review, but there are lots of professors who, if even if they say that I know you cannot be in my lab, but they can give some valuable suggestions which you can inculcate in your statement of purpose and your CV. Like, there are lots of professors who do that. Or they might actually say that your CV is good, your statement of purpose is good, you can apply during this time. You will be, for example, in New Zealand or Australia, and everything. So they ask you for fund, like they say that you need to find your CV and resume, everything is good, but you need to find your own funding opportunity. So I mean, when you are shooting out the mails, they can give suggestions, and as well as they can guide you like what you might need to do in order to get into their labs.
Yeah.
Uh, you,
I hope, Mansi, that clears your doubt. There is another question from Abhinav. What are some common mistakes that applicants make in their application, and how can we avoid them?
uh, common mistakes, I would say during the application process, you need to be very careful about, like, I mean, applying it like what for, I mean, there are different kind of mistakes, but I mean, during your applications, you like you have to be very careful about what you're applying for, that you're uploading everything, every requirement. So, I mean, there are some universities who have specific requirements for the application process. Like, apart from your statement of purpose, they might ask you a diversity statement as well. For example, UCLA did ask for a diversity statement. So your diversity statement has to be tailored in a way. I mean, those are some of the important things that, I mean, it might be written as optional, but if you give them, then it's a kind of gamble which you do. And mistakes, well, I'll say that people. I mean, I already wrote down the don'ts of the SOPs, like don't use generic or cliche statements and all of those. So those are the common mistakes.
Yeah, we have that was pretty insightful. We have another question. How important are letters of recommendation in application process, and how should one go about securing them?
Oh, it's important because I mean, for if you are applying for any kind of graduate programs abroad, you will need letter of recommendation. I mean, there is some requirement of minimum of three letter of recommendations whom you have worked with. Like, it's generally for people. It's generally from people whom you have worked for more than 2 to 3 months. So it has to be your advisor, your faculty members, your undergrad advisors or research advisors. So letter of recommendation is very important. And how to go around securing them? You have to directly talk to the professors and tell them that you are interested in applying abroad. So you can you kindly write me a statement, a letter of recommendation. And it's important to have a good letter of recommendation because I mean, letter of recommendation is actually important for the beginning, for the screening process and everything. After your research profile, they will actually go through the letter of recommendation coming from the different professors, and what kind of, how how they have pursued you in your academic and your research life. So that would give them an overview of what kind of a researcher or student you are.
We have another question from Nitin. Which is better for easiness of getting admission for PhD? Directly contacting the professor or by the application process through the university?
As I told you, for USA, most of the universities, even if you mail the professors, it's like there is a formal application procedure. So, I mean, there are very few professors who would directly take students because they have a vacancy in their project. But most of the programs in universities, they will admit students through the generic way of, like, in India, how we get into the universities is, and then you are given labs, or you go through lab rotations and everything. So, I mean, it's not easy, but I mean, uh, most of the cases it's a generic like application, but there are professors who might take you directly. That's why you need to mail around people.
Another related to SOP, could you please suggest how SOP is different for postdoc positions?
Actually, well, I don't know if I'll be giving out the information correct over here, since I'm not a postdoc person. But I guess the SOP for your, I mean, how you write the SOP for your PhD program and your postdoc will be kind of the same thing. I mean, and all, I mean, during your postdoc, you have more and better skills and abilities, that you have completed your PhD and everything. So you have to write about your PhD experiences and other things. I mean, the conferences you attend, the peer review journals. I mean, how journals you have peer reviewed and everything. I wouldn't be the exact person to be answering this question.
Yeah. Another question says, is it compulsory to have research publication to apply for PhD in abroad?
Oh, it's not compulsory at all. I mean, there are lots of people who does have publications, and it helps for the I mean, the program administration to set your SOP or your part. But as I already told, tailor your research experiences and your abilities in a way where it showcases that you have learned a lot and you can do a lot of it. Because I know people here who have come from good universities from India and and they do not have publications, but yeah, they have been accepted. There are lots of people, so it's not a mandatory thing.
Yeah, like personal, this is my personal question. Like, can you tell some differences about like pursuing a PhD versus a master's degree abroad, and how should one decide which one to pursue? Like, there are options. We can directly go for PhD after our bachelor's, but what do you prefer? Like, what are your thoughts about it?
That's a personal thing. I mean, not everyone would be like okay with committing into the 4 5 years of the getting into the PhD program. So for them, they might get into the master's program and then get a job offer here and abroad. So for most of the PhD people, actually, if you're joining directly the PhD, you might there are options for the PhD people. If you are not like willing to complete your 4 5 years, you can get off with a master's. I mean, you can get that, and also you can request a department also that you want to get a master's along with your PhD. So the question, if you say that what's better, master's or PhD, well, that's a personal question. I mean, not everyone would be interested in doing a PhD always, but masters, you need to pay your tuition fees. It's not funded by the university. I mean, I think after one semester, the university starts paying your like you can be a TA or an RA, and some part of it gets covered, but obviously the stipend is less than that of the PhD. Okay. Uh, You're not audible, Chetan. You're not audible.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yeah. You're audible now.
Yeah. Yeah, we have three more questions. How much will be the expenses after getting admission, and how much time will it take for the fellowship to be granted?
You'll get an offer letter where you'll be mentioned that if you are getting an RA or a TA. So it's if it's a fellowship, then it depends on the fellowship which you're applying for. I mean, I didn't go through the fellowships which are offered. I mean, SERB was probably not operating in my year, but I mean, the fellowship to be granted, I mean, you apply, you get selected. I mean, from the time your program starts, your fellowship, if it's an external fellowship, your fellowship will start from the time your program here in abroad starts. So, and expenses after admission, well, for PhD, the tuition fees are generally covered. So the other expenses which you have is I mean, for some of the fellowships like the SERB fellowship, I know that they cover your stay, I mean the rent as well along with your tuition fees and your stipend. So So fellowships are a bit more than what is given by the universities. And other expenses, well, here you people do manage with whatever stipend you get here. I mean, your rent, your any kind of groceries, and your food from here. And the other expenses, I guess, I mean, when you're traveling from India to here, your flight tickets and everything. So, I mean, estimate of expenses according to the admission process, there is no such expense you'll be providing to the institute. Only, I guess, I mean, your personal expenses.
I hope Nitin got an answer for his question. There is another question. What is the scope after PhD in abroad? Do we need to do postdoc necessarily?
It's not necessary to do a postdoc. I mean, after PhD, you have lots of opportunities. You can have I mean, you can go to the industries, you can go to the national labs here in US. You can also go to you can go do postdocs. I mean, it all depends on how you want to, if you want to stay in academic life, or you want to go to industry, or if you want to go to industry and then go back to academic life. So it depends. I mean, as you go through your PhD program, and there is a lot of scope. I mean, you'll get the placements in United States is quite different from what we have in India. I mean, here companies come and there is some recruitment fair and everything where you go to the companies and you talk to them. It's not like India where they open up the companies for specific branches. Any branch can go to them and talk to them for their for the placement process.
Another good question. Can you share some insights into the potential challenges and opportunities that international students may face in the US PhD programs and how to navigate them?
The challenges is quite similar. I mean, challenge as a PhD student is quite similar to the challenges you my PhD student faces in India. I mean, but here, I mean, there are lots of other factors which plays here. I mean, you have to cook your own food and do every kind of work on your own. But I mean, for from what I have understood is for us Indians, we don't generally have a lot of problem the language problem, I might say. I mean, there are lots of people coming from the Middle Eastern countries, Iran and everywhere. So for them, I mean, speaking in English and everything is a bit difficult. But for most Indians who come here, there is a certain exam which you need to clear of a year for being a like a teaching assistant and everything. There are requirements where even if you're getting an RA, your department or program says that, you know, for 2 semesters you might have to do a teaching assistant. So you need to pass an exam. So for that exam, that's an English, or I mean spoken English kind of a thing. And I mean, I think I mean Indians don't generally have a problem with the language thing. And apart from that, if I go to the course structures, I would say, I mean, if you have already studied chemical engineering and you're applying for chemical engineering, I mean, the way you study over here is a bit different from that in India. I mean, here you learn a lot from the practical applications of the assignments and everything. And those assignments are not like you know, you write 2 to 3 pages of something and you submit those. You actually have to think through every assignment. You know, talk with your peers and everyone. Well, academic integrity is a very big thing over here. I mean, you might actually be sent out of the university if you are caught copying from others, or you know, duplicating their stuff. So, I mean, the challenges and opportunities, it's pretty much the same any PhD student would face around the world. I mean, working through your problems. Also, I would say that people coming, I mean, the lab you'll be joining will have a different lab culture and a way in which the research is done. So it might take some time for some people to get adjusted to that. So what's most important is actually sticking to what you are doing. I mean, it's very easy to lose hope in PhD program, as obviously everyone knows. So I mean, opportunities and I mean challenges are those. And the opportunities, well, there are lots of opportunities. I mean, here you can do a lots of collaborative works. You can get a vast experience in a work with the instruments. You can get a lot of instrumentation, technical skills. You can go for, and when you go for conferences, you get to interact with a lot of professors. I mean, you can do those back in India as well. There is nothing very uh, uh, different here. But yes, networking is very important over here. The more you go for the networks, you go for conferences, talk to other people, you'll get to know about the different opportunities which are available for you after your PhD. So yeah, I mean, those are the opportunities which you'll be getting. And uh, I mean, it also depends on how good your relationship is with your advisor and how much he or she encourages you. So yeah. And
Yeah,
for
that was
navigating
pretty
through them,
info.
yeah, I mean, for navigating through them, you should actually need to, I mean, you should know that this is an opportunity. And I mean, even if you are the first one in your lab, or you need to try doing that. So uh, I mean, every university here and abroad, they have lots of research gatherings, symposiums, and everything where you can like present a lot of it. You can get feedbacks from everyone and everywhere. I mean, there is a foundation here which is the Graduate Women in Science, where you interact with the other with the women in every field, and you actually go on to teach students and in the schools and other places where you can get more experiences and get an exposure of it. So, yeah, there are lots of opportunities and it's not restricted.
Yeah, a few participants are asking, could you please provide a copy of SOP in the format which you suggested, if that's possible?
I cannot actually give my SOP entirely, but I have some examples of different SOPs. I can send it over to Chetan and he can give it to people. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean.
sure. Sure, I will definitely do that. There is another question. What is the biggest difference you see if you compare a PhD in a good institute in India and one in abroad?
Uh, the biggest difference, I would say, um, you have more flexibility of doing a lot of different things over here. I mean, if you want to, if your advisor agrees to it, and if you have some new ideas and you want to actually do that, there are very few advisors who would actually stop you from doing that. I mean, even if your work is project specific, I would say the most important thing is like we get a lot of facilities over here for us to use. I mean, I know even IITs have a lot of it, but I mean, we know that while we are applying, we're trying to get a slot in IIT for a SEM or a TEM, it takes some few weeks. But here in abroad, it doesn't actually take a lot of time. I mean, it might be within 1 or 2 days you'll get a new slot. So the availability of the facilities or the materials for you is exhaustive, a lot of it. And I mean. Uh, you can talk to different professors for different collaborative for collaborations. If you have a small doubt in your project, you can actually go towards them, go to them, and talk it out and discuss it with them. So I think that is one of the biggest difference I am noticing here.
That was pretty informative answer. I don't see any more questions, so I think this brings us to the end of the session. Thank you, like, everyone, for attending this insightful workshop, and I hope this session had provided you with a better understanding of how US higher education system works and how to like make successful application. And like, just remember that the information shared by our esteemed speaker Anna Chaudhary will be valuable, and I encourage you to take what you have learned today and apply it in future. And definitely don't hesitate to reach out to Students Academic Board for any assistance. And on behalf of Students Academic Board, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Angna Chaudhary for taking the time to share her expertise and experiences with us. Yeah, your insights and knowledge have been truly invaluable, and we are honored to have you have had you as speaker. And thank you so much for taking time in morning. Uh,
Yeah.
I would also like to thank our attendees to joining with us today. We appreciate your participation and questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chetan. Actually, yeah, this workshop is very important. I mean, when I was there in student academic body, even I had conducted this one. So thank you for hosting this, and I can see a lot of attendance over here. So yeah, I think it's going to be helpful for a lot of people. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you Student Academic Board for hosting me. If anyone has any doubt or anything, you can ask Chetan for my mail ID, and you can shoot a mail to me. I would reply you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, goodbye. Have a nice night. Bye.
Goodbye.
Yeah,
Have a good day.
bye.